If you want to go from 200 to 250 in any crafting profession in New World, well, I have the materials here that you will need to do so. And you can do this day one because it's using all the materials available right now. Yet again, I have a very sexy spreadsheet that I will put a link to in the description. However, there are quite a few things that I want to talk about with each one, so let's jump in. Now we're going to start with probably the trickiest one here, and that is actually armoring. Now there's two main ways of doing this. One of them is to find the cheapest material craft. That's often been the infused leather gloves, but there's a website, Gaming Tools, that you can sort of check out if you want to be like sure using the prices on your server. But if you do want to do it with the gloves, the infused leather gloves, then you need to craft 1,195 of them. And for that you will use tier 5 leathers, 4,780 of them. You will also use tier 1 cloth, 4,780 of them, and tier 1 metals, 1,195. Now I'm using the phrase here tier 5, tier 1, etc. because that's really what this is. You do not need to use specifically like orichalcum or infused leather. You can use the purples and the greens. So for example, tier 5 leather, it said it might be infused leather, but it's also smolderhide and scarhide, and they might be cheaper on your server. Tier 1 metal, for example, yes, sure, iron ingots, but it's also fey iron. Some of these are just cheaper. I don't know what's going to be the cheapest on your server, but it's up to you to make that distinction. I personally think buying this isn't a good idea right now. You should probably go out there and farm them anyway. And in that case, you just wouldn't use the rares because you won't have them consistently. But there's a huge potential saver when it comes to armoring. Unfortunately, it's not really quantifiable. And what you want to do here is to use every first time craft bonus. Now, obviously, if you've already used them, then that's a little bit of a problem. But there's a lot of green patterns, there's replica patterns, there's Russia patterns, there's quite a few crafts that you literally might not have used. And when it comes to the green patterns, some of them will let you actually do it 5 times and you get 5 different first time craft bonuses. First time craft bonus, by the way, is 3 times the amount of XP, so very much worth doing. But there's loads of green patterns, and if you have 5 of each, then you are in a great position. It's also worth noting, as I said, you can do the replicas from the expeditions, you can do 1 of each Russia pattern, and you can do 1 of each sophisticated pattern. Now, we estimate you will need approximately 170 of these first time crafts. Now, that's a complete estimation, so don't use these figures exactly, because it really depends on what the item you're crafting is. Each item will have a different amount of XP, so it's very difficult. However, I estimate that if you had an equal number of heavy, medium, and lights, you would need 572 tier 5 of each, basically. So tier 5 leather, tier 5 cloth, tier 5 metals, you need 572. Now that's not going to be exact, no matter which way you swing it, okay? And for the tier 1s, I think you need about 506 of each. You can see how that's a lot less than the infused leather gloves. You need a lot less materials and they're spread out. That's going to be the big saver here. Now, I would not buy the green patterns though. The green patterns have gone up in price. People already are aware of this. What I would do is if you've been holding on to your green patterns, you want to sell them. If you have any more than 5 of each, you might as well sell them at this point. I do not think there's any point holding on to them, and they have really good value. Now, technically you can do a calculation to see if you should buy a green pattern or the materials raw. There's no way I can know that, okay? Depends on the cost. But that right there is the big opportunity to do the first of everything. The dungeon materials have also gone up in price. Again, if you have those and you don't plan on leveling armoring, might be a good time to sell those. Sell, and farm. But do not rely on the estimated material quantity, because as I said, that depends on the amount of patterns. A lot of people, for example, bought more light and medium patterns than they did heavy. So you would probably have to skew the numbers to your taste and actually pretty much calculate it exactly. But if you use this as an approximate and then maybe pick up the rest later on, you'll be okay, I think. One extra thing before we move away from armoring is the fact that it might actually be worth farming the new leather, dark hide, and getting some of the first craft bonuses like that, because the XP ratio there is really quite good. However, will you be able to do that day one? Maybe. It's quite quick to get to 205 skinning. And then if you went ahead and farmed the leather, I'm pretty sure you'd get it. I'm just not including that here because it's not something you can do right now. But if you wanted to save some materials, that might be worth looking into. And then we'll move on to weaponsmithing. Now, weaponsmithing is pretty damn simple. You can do any of the main things, but I think probably the best way right now is the orichalcum greatsword, and you need to do 468 of them. Now, to do that, you would need 6,552 metals, tier 5, and then tier 1 wood would be 3,276, tier 1 hide would be 3,744. Now again, actually the patterns are vaguely useful here. If you have any first time crafts then you want to make sure you're using them, because why the hell would you not? There are some patterns, not as many, some of the blue patterns and stuff like that, but some of the replica stuff, yeah, that exists, so go ahead and use that. Now, for engineering, again, it's sort of quite simple. There's a couple of different options depending what's expensive on your server. Basically, is wood more expensive than the tier 5 metal? So you can do 538 ironwood spears, and for that you would need 6,994 tier 5 wood, 2,690 tier 1 metals, 4,304 tier 1 hides. Or for the blunderbuss, it would be 4,842 tier 5 metal, and then 4,842 tier 1 wood, and then 4,304 tier 1 hide. Pretty simple, that one. The next one though is a little bit more interesting, and that is Arcana. And again, you do actually have a couple of different options on this one, but one of the ones that I think will be very important is the Rejuvenation Serum. Now this has actually been currently disabled on the PTR because it's so strong. However, I think they will basically just nerf it. I don't think it's going to get removed because Arcana needs a purpose. So assuming it doesn't get removed, the way you would do this is to craft 255 of these regen serums. And in turn, for each craft, you need 3 of the normal potions. So you need 765 of each potion: infused health, infused mana, and infused regen. And you also need some infused alkahest, and for that you need 1,275 of it, which is quite high. Now this is going to be expensive, but the idea is that these rejuvenation serums might also be sellable, or you might actually want to use them. Basically, you might not lose much value. It's a little bit like doing molts and quintessences and that kind of stuff, because in theory a lot of that is, the value is held in that, so you don't really lose much gold. So I thought we'd include it here, but it's not actually like very quick, if that makes sense. And then the other option is doing 427 either Orichalcum Alive Staffs or Orichalcum Ice Gauntlets. And again, here it depends on what's more expensive. Is it the tier 5 wood or is it the tier 5 hide? I won't even read the list, I'll just show you on the screen, and of course you can check the spreadsheet in the description. Jewelcrafting is also slightly interesting because I think there's something here where, again, you're going to want to craft something that actually has value, and that thing is going to be powerful gemstone dust. It's actually used in 2 new recipes in significant quantities actually. I think one recipe might need like 25 of it, and it's pretty simple, right? You need to do 801 powerful gemstone dust, which means you need 2,403 pristine gems. Yes, it's quite expensive, but again, the value might not be lost. And look at it, you're just going to actually be leveling your jewel crafting. Not free, but not that expensive if you sold out. The alternative is to basically do 3,003 green rings. Any green gem, obviously you can sort of do one type or multiple, and you just need that many gems. You need that same quantity of silver bands, that same quantity of either silver or gold settings, whatever cheaper on your server, and the same number of silver ingots. The next one is cooking, and again, I think this one's actually rather simple, relatively easy to get. However, it's not going to have value to you unless you're going to play the game a long time yourself, because I think the best recipe here is probably the artisan flatbread, and I think Gaming Tools actually also agrees with me on this one. You simply need 910 artisan flatbreads. Some people don't even actually know what this is. It's basically like a hearty meal, except the duration of the initial heal lasts longer. And to do this, you need 910 of all of these: flour, yeast, cheese, seasoning blend, and water. There's a potential that there's some money maker to be had with the horse food. However, I don't think so in terms of crafting. I think more the horse food materials are probably worth selling, because you're not going to need that much. Actually, you can only feed your horse 3 times a day. I was well off. I thought you could actually just get to like 250 day 1, but you cannot. But the flatbread seems very reasonable to me. It's basically just like doing hearty meals, and you know what? You're going to use them, so you might as well do it. If you're just out there to make money and you never really do combat or anything like that, then you might want to look at something else that you can actually sell. Maybe even hearty meals actually. So for me, those are the best way of leveling up your crafting skills right from the start. It may not be the best like several days after the expansion's out. Like the minute we actually have access to like dark hide and stuff like that, the armoring one might very quickly change. But if you want to be there day 1 trying to craft your bits for some reason, then this is how you would do it. Also, probably not worth buying a lot of this because a lot of it is overpriced right now. I think the key lesson is if you have a pattern and a first time craft bonus, make sure you use that. For Arcana, the rejuvenation serums might be like top tier. Jewelcrafting, the powerful gemstone dust will probably be good as well and hold value. And for cooking, flatbread's relatively easy. Big shout out to my Patreons, I really do appreciate your support. Without this, it would be a lot more difficult to do. And if you want to come watch me over on Twitch, I stream pretty much, well, every day apart from Saturday. Other than that, I hope you have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.